My name is Wendy Collins. I'm 33 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I ended a 2-year relationship without raising my voice once, without a fight, and without giving him a second chance to explain what he already meant the first time. I work in IT support for a mid-sized logistics company. My life, up until recently, followed a rhythm that made sense. Gym before work, long hours behind a screen, home by 6:30 most nights. I pay my bills on time, I keep my space clean. Nothing flashy, nothing performative, just stable, intentional, mine. My boyfriend, Victor, is 29. We'd been together a little over 2 years, living together for the last 8 months. He works in event marketing, fast-paced, social, always surrounded by people who talk louder than they listen. He thrives in that world, always planning the next trip, the next night out, the next moment that needs to be captured and posted. On paper, we made sense. I handled structure. He brought energy. That's what I told myself. Looking back now, I think what I really meant was I anchored things and he floated. Last month, he planned a 4-day trip to Miami with 3 of his closest friends. I drove him to the airport at 5 a.m. on a Thursday, paid for his food the night before because he said he was too stressed to cook. Normal things, thoughtful things, the kind of things you don't keep score of when you believe you're building something mutual. The night before he left, we were sitting at the kitchen counter while he packed. He'd had a couple of drinks and was on a video call with one of his friends, laughing, loud, performing, even in his own home. At some point, he muted the call, turned to me, and said it like it was nothing. My friends think you're kind of a joke, and honestly, they're not wrong. I remember thinking I misheard him. I actually laughed. He didn't. He shrugged like he was explaining something obvious. Said they think I'm boring, predictable, not really on his level socially. Then he added, almost casually, that sometimes he agreed, that I could try harder, that I was lucky he even liked stable girls. He said it like it was generosity, like I should be grateful. I didn't argue. I didn't ask him to explain. I didn't even ask him to repeat it. I just looked at him and asked what time his flight boarded, and he smiled, like the conversation had been productive. The next morning, I drove him to the airport, helped him unload his bag, told him to text me when he landed. He kissed me quickly, already distracted, already somewhere else, and walked inside without looking back. That was the last time he saw the apartment the way he left it. When I got back to the parking lot, I sat there for a full minute before going upstairs. Not because I was emotional, I wasn't crying, I wasn't angry. I was thinking. Because the truth is, Victor had said things like that before, just never that directly. Little comments about how my clothes were too plain, how I should post more, how his friends' girlfriends were more fun. I always brushed it off because none of it actually mattered to me. But this was different. This wasn't preference. This was perception. If his friends thought I was a joke, it meant he'd let them. People don't form that kind of opinion without reinforcement, and the fact that he said they weren't wrong meant he agreed. That was enough. I walked upstairs, unlocked the door, and stepped into the apartment we both technically lived in, but that I paid for, maintained, and built long before he moved in. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop. The first thing I checked was the lease. Month to month after the first year. Only my name. Good. The second thing I did was log into our shared account, the one we use for groceries and small expenses. I transferred his portion back into his personal account, took screenshots, documented everything, not because I expected a fight, because I expect clarity. Then I called the leasing office. I didn't dramatize anything. I didn't mention the relationship. I asked a simple question: what the process would be if I needed to remove an occupant who wasn't on the lease but had been approved to live there. The answer was simple. I could revoke his occupancy in writing. Clean, legal, final. That mattered to me. I wasn't going to do anything messy. No emotional outbursts, no impulsive decisions, no changing locks or throwing things out. If I was going to end this, I was going to do it properly. By noon, I'd taken a half day off work. I went downstairs, grabbed moving boxes from storage, and came back up to the apartment that was already starting to feel different. Quieter, clearer. I started with his clothes. Folded everything neatly. Shirts, pants, shoes lined up carefully. Toiletries packed in separate boxes. Nothing thrown, nothing rushed. I'm not petty. I'm thorough. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. A selfie from him on the plane, sunglasses on, that same easy smile, a heart emoji in the caption. I looked at it for a second. Then I replied with a thumbs up and kept packing. By the second day of Victor's trip, the apartment didn't feel empty. It felt corrected. Not hollow, not lonely, just recalibrated. like something had been slightly off for months, and I had finally adjusted it back into place. Everything that was mine had returned to where it originally belonged. The living room looked cleaner without the extra furniture he insisted on buying for aesthetics. The corners felt quieter without the ring light he never put away. Even the kitchen felt different, less cluttered, less staged. His presence had always been loud, even when he wasn't speaking. Now it wasn't, and I noticed the difference immediately. I stood in the second bedroom, looking at the stack of boxes I had packed over the last 36 hours. 6 medium boxes of clothes, 2 smaller ones for bathroom items and cosmetics, 1 box of random decor he'd added without asking, his suitcase, the garment rack he said we needed. Everything labeled, everything documented. I opened my notes app and double-checked the list, not because I expected him to argue, but because I don't leave room for ambiguity. If there was going to be an ending, it would be clean. Thursday night, my phone buzzed again. A video this time. Loud music, neon lights, a rooftop bar somewhere in Miami. Victor in the center of it, laughing, drink in hand, his friends crowding into the frame like they were performing for an invisible audience. The caption read, "Living my best life." I watched it once. Then again, slower. One of the women, his ex-girlfriend Kayla, the same one he insisted he was still cool with, leaned into the camera, her voice cutting through the music just enough. "Next trip, we're upgrading you properly." She laughed. Victor laughed louder. Didn't correct her. Didn't even hesitate. I paused the video right there. That moment, small, almost forgettable to anyone else, was the clearest confirmation I needed. It wasn't just what he said to me. It was what he allowed other people to say about me, and what he chose to agree with when I wasn't in the room. I locked my phone and set it face down on the counter. Then I went back to work. Friday morning, I sent the formal email to the leasing office. Short, direct, no emotion. I was revoking his occupancy, effective immediately upon his return. They replied within the hour, confirming the update. I printed the email, slipped it into a folder with a copy of the lease, everything documented, everything aligned. Then I made one call. Marcus. He's been my friend for years, the kind of person who doesn't ask unnecessary questions, the kind who understands tone more than words. I might need help moving a few things into storage, I told him. He didn't ask why, just said, "Tell me when." That was enough. Saturday morning, I rented a small, climate-controlled storage unit 5 minutes away. Nothing expensive, just clean, temporary, functional. I loaded the first set of boxes into my car. Clothes, shoes, smaller items. Drove them over. Came back. Loaded the rest. 2 trips. No rush, no hesitation. Just completion. By late afternoon, everything that belonged to Victor was no longer in my apartment. Not hidden, not thrown away. Just relocated. Properly. I stood in the doorway of the now empty second bedroom for a moment, looking at the space he used to occupy. It didn't feel like something was missing. It felt like something had been removed. There's a difference. Before I left for the storage unit the second time, I walked into the kitchen and picked up the framed photo from last New Year's Eve. We were standing close together in it, smiling, arms wrapped around each other like we understood something permanent. I looked at it for a few seconds. Then I placed it face down on the counter. Not broken. Not destroyed, just no longer on display. That night, around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed again. "Victor, have missed me yet?" I stared at the message. Simple, casual, unaware. Like nothing had shifted. Like nothing was waiting for him. I typed slowly. "I think we need to talk when you get back." 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then a laughing emoji. "Don't be dramatic." I didn't reply. Sunday evening, he sent his flight details. Landing Monday at 4:15 p.m. Then a follow-up. "Can you pick me up?" I read it, let it sit for a moment, then replied, "I have work. Safe flight." That was the last message I sent him before he came home. Monday morning, I didn't go to work. Not because I needed time to process, because I had one last thing to finalize. I cleaned the apartment, not obsessively, just thoroughly. Surfaces wiped down, floors vacuumed, everything reset to how it had been before he moved in. No trace of him left behind. Except the silence. At 4:37 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Just landed. Baggage claim is insane. Where are you?" I didn't respond. At 5:12, he called. I let it ring. At 5:19, another text. "Are you seriously not picking me up?" I was sitting on the couch at that point, the apartment quiet around me. No background noise, no distractions, just stillness. At 5:30, I finally replied, "You'll need to Uber." The response came instantly. "Why?" I kept it simple. "We need to talk when you get here." The typing bubble appeared, paused, disappeared, then came a long paragraph. about how tired he was, how crazy the trip had been, how this better not be about what he said, because I was being too sensitive. Sensitive. I read it once. Didn't respond. At 6:08 p.m., I heard the elevator down the hall. At 6:11, the door unlocked, and for the first time since Thursday morning, Victor stepped back into a space that no longer belonged to him. He walked in dragging his suitcase behind him, sunglasses still on, skin slightly sunburned, like he'd just stepped out of a different world entirely. He took 2 steps inside, then stopped. It wasn't immediate panic, not even confusion at first, just a pause, like something didn't quite match what he expected. His eyes moved across the living room. The corner where his ring light used to be, empty. The bar cart he insisted we needed, gone. The pile of throw pillows he liked but never used, missing. "Where's my mirror?" he asked, like that was the most important detail. "In storage," I said. He turned toward me slowly. "What do you mean, storage?" I stood up from the couch, calm, steady, already past the part where emotions make things messy. "Your things are packed. They're in a storage unit 5 minutes away. I paid for the first month. After that, it's yours to handle." For a second, he just blinked at me, like his brain hadn't caught up yet. "What are you talking about?" "I told you we needed to talk." He let go of his suitcase. It tipped slightly, then settled. He looked around again, this time more carefully. The shoe rack, gone. The wall art he hung without asking, gone. The small details he assumed would always be there, gone. "You're joking," he said. "No," he laughed. That same sharp, dismissive laugh I'd heard before. "Is this about what I'd said before the trip? Oh my God, you're actually this insecure?" I shook my head slightly. "It's not about insecurity, it's about agreement." He frowned. "What?" "Your friends think I'm a joke because you let them. And you said they're not wrong." He rolled his eyes, already irritated. "It was a comment, Wendy. You're blowing this way out of proportion." "No," I said evenly. "I'm reacting proportionally." That was the first moment his expression changed. Not guilt, not regret, annoyance. "So what?" he said. "You're kicking me out?" I didn't raise my voice. "You don't live here anymore." Silence. He stared at me like I'd just said something absurd. Then he laughed again, but it sounded thinner this time. "My clothes are here." "Not anymore." His jaw tightened. "I told you, they're boxed. I have an inventory list and photos. You can pick them up tonight or tomorrow. I'll give you the storage key once you confirm everything's there." He took a step closer. "You're insane." I met his gaze without shifting. "I'm decisive." That seemed to irritate him more than anything else. He lowered his voice, like this was something he could still smooth over if he adjusted his tone. "You're seriously throwing away 2 years because I said my friends think you're boring?" I corrected him quietly. "Because you agreed with them, and because you're comfortable disrespecting me publicly." "I never disrespected you publicly." "You laughed when your friend said you should upgrade." That landed. I saw it in the way his expression paused, just for a second. Then he shook it off. "That was a joke." "Jokes are funny," I said. "That wasn't." He crossed his arms. "So what, you want me to apologize?" "No." That caught him off guard. He blinked. "No?" "I don't want an apology," I said. "I want alignment, and we don't have it." He started pacing now, agitated, searching for a version of this conversation where he still had control. "You're overreacting," he said. "Everyone talks about their relationships with their friends. That's normal." "Talking is normal," I replied. "Undermining isn't." He shook his head frustrated. "You're just mad because you're not like their girlfriends. They're outgoing. They actually plan things. They're fun." I didn't hesitate. "Then you should date one of them." That stopped him completely. "You don't mean that." "I do." The silence that followed wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just clear. He looked at me like he was trying to find the crack, the place where I'd soften, where I'd take it back, where I'd shift into negotiation. I didn't. So he tried something else. "So where am I supposed to go right now?" "Chet, that's not my responsibility." His eyes narrowed. "You're being cold." "I'm being consistent." He glanced around that apartment again, like he expected something to change if he just waited long enough. It didn't. After about 30 seconds, he grabbed his suitcase. "This isn't over," he said. "For me, it is." He stood there for a second longer, then turned and walked out. The door closed behind him with a quiet click. And just like that, the apartment was silent again. Not tense. Not heavy. Just still. I didn't block him immediately. That's something people do when they're emotional. I wasn't. I was finished. About 20 minutes later, my phone started lighting up. First texts. "Are you seriously doing this? You're embarrassing yourself. My friends were right about you." That last one made me pause for half a second. Then came the calls. I let them ring. then voice messages. The first one, angry. He called me dramatic, insecure, small. The second one shifted. Softer, defensive. I didn't mean it like that. You know how they are. You're taking it wrong. By the third voicemail, his tone changed again. Not softer, smarter. You're going to regret this. You think you can just replace me? That told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about us. It was about position, perception, status. I sent one final message. There's nothing to regret. Your belongings are secure. Let me know when you want the storage key. Then I muted the conversation. An hour later, my phone rang again. Unknown number, I answered. It was Kayla. Of course it was. Oh, you're really going to throw Victor out over a comment? She said, her tone already loaded with judgment. I kept my neutral. He wasn't thrown out. He no longer lives in my apartment. Oh my God, she scoffed. You're being so literal. It was a joke. We tease each other all the time. You don't date me, I said. He does. Silence. Then she tried again. He's upset. He feels blindsided. I considered that for a moment. He had 4 days to reflect on what he said, I replied. He chose rooftop bars instead. She exhaled sharply. You're proving his point right now. If his point is that I won't tolerate being disrespected, I said calmly, then yes. There was nothing else to say after that. We hung up, and for the first time since this started, there was no argument left to have. Around 9 p.m., my phone lit up again. Victor, where am I supposed to stay tonight? I read the message. Let it sit for a moment, then placed my phone face down on the table. That wasn't my problem anymore. The next morning, I went back to work like nothing had happened. That's the part people don't expect. They think there's supposed to be some kind of emotional aftermath, a spiral, a distraction, something visible. There wasn't. I had meetings. I handled tickets. I fixed a server issue that had been lingering for 2 days. Life didn't pause just because something ended. Around 10 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Victor, can we just talk like adults? I waited until my lunch break to respond. We already did. He called immediately. I stepped outside to take it. His voice was different this time. Calm, measured, careful. I didn't think you'd actually end things over that, he said. That's the problem. A pause. What is? You didn't think I would. Silence. Then he shifted. I was venting. My friends exaggerate. I exaggerate back. It's not that deep. It is that deep, I said. You don't accidentally agree that your girlfriend is a joke. You're twisting it. I'm taking it at face value. Another pause. Then a different angle. You've been distant for months. You don't plan anything exciting. You don't post us. It feels like you're hiding me. I don't perform my relationship for your friends, I replied. That's not performing. That's being proud of who you're with. I am proud of who I am, I said. I don't need an audience. He exhaled, sharper this time. So that's it? You're just done? Yes. Just like that? Not just like that, I said. After consideration. He was quiet for a few seconds. Then, softer. We lived together. We built something. That matters. I didn't interrupt him. We shared a life, Wendy. Space isn't the same as alignment, I said. That one landed. Silence stretched between us again. Then, quieter. You're really not going to fight for this? There's nothing to fight, I said. You said what you believe. I believe you. He didn't argue after that. Didn't apologize. Didn't try again. He just said, fine, and hung up. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right decision. Not because he was angry, but because he never once said he was wrong. Over the next few days, the story started changing. Not from me, from him. People started reaching out. Not my close friends. People from his circle. People who had only ever seen the curated version of our relationship. And hey, heard things ended kind of abruptly. Victor's pretty shaken up. He said you kicked him out while he was out of town. That word again. Kicked out. I didn't respond to most of them. The few I did, I kept it simple. It was my apartment. We broke up. His belongings are secure. No emotion. No defense. Just facts. Thursday afternoon, he posted something on Instagram. Nothing direct. Just a vague line. Some people can't handle strong men. Know your worth. The comments filled quickly. Fire emojis. Applause. Validation from people who only knew half a story and didn't care about the rest. I watched it. Didn't react. Around 8 p.m., he messaged me again. I can't believe you're making me look crazy to everyone. That almost made me smile. I hadn't posted anything. Hadn't said anything. Hadn't explained anything. I went to work. Went to the gym. Cooked dinner. That was it. You made your own story, I replied. So now I'm the villain? I didn't answer that. Instead, I asked, when do you want to pick up your storage key? He sent back a long paragraph. Angry. Accusatory. You're acting like a robot. You never even loved me. I typed a response, deleted it, then realized something. There was no reason for my phone to keep lighting up over someone who had already told me exactly how he saw me. So I did what I should have done 3 days earlier. I blocked him. His number, Instagram, WhatsApp, shared albums, everything. Not dramatic, not symbolic, just complete. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was final. I didn't hear from him for 5 days. Not directly. But silence doesn't always mean absence. It just means the pressure becomes indirect. Saturday afternoon, I was at the grocery store when I saw one of his friends. Not by accident. This wasn't near his usual area. She saw me first. Wow, she said, looking me up and down. You look fine. I am fine. She tilted her head. Victor said you completely shut down. Blocked him everywhere. That's kind of extreme. It's efficient. She crossed her arms. You know he's been staying with Kayla, right? He had nowhere else to go. That wasn't true. He had options. He just didn't expect to need them. We're not together, I said. He's an adult. He'll figure it out. She sighed, dramatic. You could have talked this through before blowing everything up. We did talk it through. She looked unconvinced. Over one comment? Over one truth. That ended the conversation. When I got home, I realized something. As long as I was reachable through other people, it wasn't actually over. So I removed that too. Archived every shared photo. No announcements. No captions. No explanations. Then I sent one message to the only mutual friend I respected. If Victor needs anything regarding the storage unit, he can email me. Otherwise, I'm not available. That was it. No more access. No more triangulation. No more noise. That weekend, I went for a run, cooked dinner, watched something without commentary in the background. And for the first time, I noticed the difference between being alone and being at peace. 2 weeks later, I got the email. Subject line storage. No emotion. No accusation. Just logistics. He wanted the unit number, the gate code, a time to collect his things. That told me everything. The storm was over. I replied with the details. Offered a time window. Wednesday, 6 p.m. We met in front of the storage facility. Neutral ground. Public. Clean. He looked different. Less polished. Less certain. You really went through with it, he said as I handed him the key. Yes. He studied me for a moment. Most people would have begged. I shrugged. Then you dated the wrong type. That almost made him smile. But it didn't last. You know, he said, I didn't actually think you were a joke. I looked at him. I think you did, I said. Or you were comfortable letting other people think that. That's not the same. It is. He didn't argue. We walked into the unit. All his boxes were there, stacked neatly, labeled, untouched. You packed all this yourself? Yes. He nodded slowly. I didn't think you had it in you. That word again. I locked the unit after he stepped inside, then handed him the key. Take care of yourself. No hug, no hesitation, no second look. I got in my car and drove home. My apartment. It wasn't bigger. It wasn't better. But it was mine, and it was quiet. People think strength looks loud, like shouting, like dramatic exits. Most of the time, it looks like this. A decision made once and never revisited.